You're about to meet a woman who had the dream life. She had a loving husband, 2 healthy children, wealth beyond any of our imagination. Yet Julie Hersh became so deeply depressed with her life that she tried to end it. And after her 3rd suicide attempt, her doctor suggested something radical, electroconvulsive therapy. She says it turned her life around. Dr. Mustafa Hussain is a psychiatrist at the University of Texas Southwestern Medical Center. He's going to join us to explain ECT. But first, Julie Hersh, the author of Struck by Living, is here with her story. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you, Allison.
So just to recap, you have and had a healthy marriage, a healthy family
Absolutely.
life, 2 kids. You had vast wealth, yet you sunk into a severe depression. What went wrong?
Well, I think it was a combination of things. It wasn't one particular thing, but a combination of stress combined with a long series of bad weather pummeled me into a depression.
And you think that you also have a predisposition genetically?
Genetically, there is a predisposition.
How did you get to the point where you considered electroconvulsive therapy, which of course sounds so radical and conjures images for many of us of shock therapy?
Absolutely. I think, well, and it's a procedure that has definitely been demonized by Hollywood. And that's one of the reasons that I wrote my book, is so that people understand that this is a viable medical procedure. Basically what happened, to say it's a choice is a little bit of a push.
But you had tried medical
I had tried medication, I had tried all sorts of things, and finally my psychiatrist, after the 3rd suicide attempt, said, we need to go to ECT. And my husband basically said as well, you have to try this. What are your choices here? You're trying to kill yourself, or there's a procedure that might help you live.
Of course. I want to bring in Dr. Mustafa Hussain right now. Doctor, can you explain to us how ECT works and whether it's painful?
Well, ECT, we exactly don't know how ECT works. However, what we understand from clinical and basic research is that ECT helps in normalizing the neurotransmitters as well as the neurotransmission, which is associated with depression, and that leads to its antidepressant effects.
Right. And let me ask you, Julie, is it painful?
No, it really isn't. You're under an anesthetic, so you're basically out for the procedure. It's very short. I think probably having the anesthesia and recovering from the anesthesia takes far longer than the ECT.
You tell the story in your book of how the morning after your
Exactly.
first ECT treatment, you say the veil lifted, and you went back and looked at your journal from, I guess, the past month, and you couldn't believe what you had written.
Well, actually, I have kept journals all my life, and so it wasn't just the last month, it was the last several years. And you know, I've done things wrong in my life, we all do, but I didn't deserve a death sentence for it. And that was what changed so dramatically for me. Now, every person who does ECT will not see a dramatic effect like that the first time they have a treatment, but over a series of usually a minimum of 6 treatments, most people do see a lift.
Dr. Hussain, is ECT good for everyone? Is everybody who's suffering from depression eligible for it?
Well, let me tell you this, that the main textbook of psychiatry states that ECT is a highly safe and most effective treatment associated with severe depression, catatonia, melancholia, and other form of psychotic depressions. So it may not be the first-line treatment for mild to moderate depression, but when it comes to acute suicidal depression, this can be a highly effective and useful form of treatment.
Go ahead.
Allison, I like to think of it as sort of the triple bypass of mental health. I mean, it's not something you would do casually, but if you were having a heart attack and you were in the hospital in the emergency room, the doctor wouldn't say, well, looks like we need to eat better, you need to exercise a little bit. The person would be dead. And that's the same way I feel about ECT. ECT saved my life. If I hadn't done it, my children would not have a mother today. And so for me, it was an incredibly powerful procedure.
And how are you feeling years later after trying it?
Great. We just had a phenomenal year last year. We lived in London. Our children are doing great. My husband's doing wonderfully in his business, so it's a real success story.
Well, thank goodness, and I can hear how emotional this whole odyssey has been for you. Julie Hersh, thanks so much for sharing it with everyone. Again, the book that anybody who's suffering from depression could pick up is called Struck by Living. It's going to come out in
April 2010.
That's
Thank
great.
you so much.
Thanks so much for coming
All right,
on.
thank you, Allison.